What's up, guys? Oh, this is stuck. There we go. What's up, guys? It's Kictor, and I am here. We're gonna try and read this. I have gotten so many messages of people saying, how are you gonna read the extras? Listen, if it's explicit, I will read ahead and give a safe for work summary. Like we kind of did with the scene in the last book. But I think the first extra for book 4 is safe, right? Bing Mei and Bing Ge's ultimate showdown? Look at this picture, though. Oh my god. Ah! My camera is dead. One sec. There we go. Okay. We've come a long way. We have come a long way to get this. And what is this? Do they get married? No one told me they got married. Married? Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see who is here today. We got Sumo was first. Hey, Sumo, and Emma, and A, Riley, Amrit, Biddy, Danielle, Tina, Horror Girl, Anna, Neko, Lidoria, Leo, Arianel, Cup Noodle Cat, Sammy, Dazai. Lots of new people today as well. Kate, who has been a member for 11 months. Oh my god, Kate. Thank you so much, dude. I have a headache and my wrist hurts, but I'm here for a little bit at least. I'm so excited for the Leo Shen extra, even if it isn't my birthday yet. Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm very excited for that as well. I'm so excited because I feel like so many people always talk about the extras like a lot. So I'm very excited to know what's up. And thank you so much for supporting me for so long, Kate. Oh my goodness. It feels like longer and also shorter somehow. And Sugar Kiss sent a gift membership. Thank you so much, Sugar Kiss. How are you doing? Good to see you here. Rose City Kimono says, that's one of the last extras. I absolutely love it. Their wedding. Huh, okay, okay. Sugar Kiss says, I'm stopping by, but I'll be at Anime Boston this weekend. Oh, lucky. Hey, I think Yi might be going to that, right? That's pretty cool. I think there's a lot of, like, East Coast peeps that are probably going to be there. That's awesome. I'd love to go to Anime Boston one year. Kate says obligatory Scum Day donation because this week sucked. Oh no! Oh, Kate, thank you for your donation. I'm sorry that your week sucked. I'll try to make it up. I'll try to make up your whole week in this stream. Cup Noodle Cat says, just had Case File and now Scum. We are so spoiled. Oh yes, and Stitch and I this morning filmed the final book club video for Yuwu, the final Yuwu video, and I was not expecting the ending to that. Oh my god. I don't think anybody could expect the ending. Meat Bun truly is a master of surprise. And CSZL, who's been a member for 4 months, thank you, says, don't miss Big Pup under the back flap. Stop! Holy shit! He's so cute! Oh my god! Oh my god! That's fucking awesome. That's awesome. I love Big Pup. That's how I feel. Tina, thank you so much for your donation, Tina. I'm going to end up falling asleep soon, but y'all send me good vibes. My last day as a Joanne store manager is tomorrow, and I start my new job next week. Oh my god! Oh my goodness, Stitch is definitely mourning the end of Joanne. And, I hope your new job next week is awesome, though. I'm definitely sending you all the good vibes. I get you all the good vibes. I hope you have a good sleep. And yeah, your new job, that's exciting. Annika says, I'm already 50 pages into the final UU volume and it's already destroying me. Oh, yes. Yes. I heard all about it today. Stardust says, so glad you're streaming today. I had a stressful second to last day of my job at Joanne's. Oh my god, what? That's crazy. 2 Joanne's members here. If that gives you any indication. Oh my goodness, anybody else here work at Joanne's? Damn, that's awful. I'm sorry about that, you guys. Josie said I just submitted all the TikToks I had been saving in the form. Dude, thank you so much. That's awesome. I can't wait to react to them tomorrow. And Orion has been a member for 4 months and says, soon I shall be born. Oh, yes. I hope that you get to the 9-month mark and you can be birthed. Night Owl, what's up, Night Owl? Hey, I've got all my work paused thanks to my laser breaking down. A forced break? Haha, I'm staying positive. Looking forward to Scum time to break machine anxiety. Dude, I was actually just thinking about your laser because I was admiring the sign you made me, and one of my guy friends came over and was like interested in it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how this was made. And he was like, probably with a laser. And then I saw on your story that your laser machine broke, and I was like, oh my god, that solved that mystery. I'm sorry to hear that it broke down, though. That must be so stressful. I hope that it can get fixed soon. Sumo says, from pure curiosity, what could you buy at Joanne's? I didn't have a store from them at my place. It was like a fabric store. So lots of costumers and cosplayers are very distressed. Oh, Stitch in the background. She's like the cryptid. She's like Mothman. Night Owl says, I have a much better glue now to put acrylic together if you need me to make more stuff. Hey, the sign made it through the move seamlessly. It's on my Danmei bookshelf. It's perfect. I love it. Tina sent a gift membership. Thank you so much, Tina. Oh my goodness, I really appreciate you donating and gifting memberships. Thank you. EL says, I'm gonna start reading Arha Volume 6 soon. Oh, have fun. Arha is very good. Annika says, someone at the con this weekend cosplayed a Joanne's angel. Oh my god. Oh my god, the meta is crazy. How a community copes. Horror Girl knows all about Mothman. Yes, I definitely had like a cryptids phase. I had a cryptids book and stuff when I was younger. I mean, I'm always still into cryptids and stuff, but I remember learning about that stuff pretty young. Baby girl Shalianne says, slowly making my way through Arha. Just finished volume 4 a day ago and I'm not halfway through 5. Literally obsessed and I can't stop reading. Yes, I found Arha very hard to put down as well. Spark Major says, I finished the UU main story and stopped right there to do some rereading. Yes, there are definitely some points that made me want to go back. I maybe want to read it, you know, but I've been hearing the story from Stitch's book club reviews, and even I was like, oh shit, I want to like think about that moment again. Tina says, I'll miss it. I worked there for 10 years from a part-time team member all the way up to store manager. That's crazy. Oh my god. That is a long time. I bet that really, really sucks. Night Owl says, always a bonus to hear my work surviving travels. I'll send you my new signs I've made before my laser went kaput. Oh yes, I'd love to see them. Shang Qinghua says, you're so cool. Please don't choke on a dumpling while reading a book you hate and isekai into it as the main villain. I will try. I will try. I don't know if I could survive Bingha. Quinn, thank you for your donation. Quinn says, my Jinshi cosplay didn't come in on time for the con this weekend. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. I could use some good scum to cheer me up. Hey, I'm here. I'm here to scum with y'all. And I'm sorry that your cosplay didn't come in time. That really, really sucks. But hopefully there'll be another con you can go to with it. Or even just take some pictures. But I understand how disappointing that can be. Some good advice from Shang Qinghua, yeah. Just me. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Spark Major says, which Danmei would you isekai into if given the choice? Oh man. Arha, just to be graced by Chu Anning's beauty just once. I feel like, you know, Heaven Official's Blessing post-canon, everything seems to be pretty chill in the universe by then. That would be a good one, and then I'd hope to see Hua Chung, you know? I'd like to see him in person as well. Maple Rosie says, if you isekai'd into Scum villain, you would join the Fujoshis writing Bingjo fic. Yeah, that's true. I knew there'd be a community of Fujos waiting for me, at least. Kate says, I'm not getting isekai'd into Arha. Are you nuts? Are you nuts? Don't you want to see Chu Anning? Don't you want to see Chu Anning? Which would you survive is a different question. Neko me, thank you for your donation. Working my way through Peerless with another Danmei read-along YouTuber, but I'm always gonna be here for Kikters. Oh, thank you. Who's reading Peerless right now? That's awesome. Sumo says, Kikter, after the stream, I will have a recommendation of a short something you will finally be able to watch without getting spoiled. Oh, okay, I'm interested. EL says, I have found myself standing for Chu Anning supremacy on my hands and knees for that man. Moto says, Danmei protagonists always go through at least one really horrific event. No way I would want to isekai into a Danmei. That's true. Kate says, I mean, yeah, but you've seen the shit that happens in Arha. I don't want skin bugs. I'll be in Arha post skin bugs. Oh no, skin bugs in the chat. Kate says, I'm reading Peerless. Kate says, I'm not on my hands and knees for Chu Anning. He's on his hands and knees for me. He certainly is on your drawing tablet. Spark Major says bugs in chat. No! Leo is also reading Peerless. Lottie! Hey, Lottie! Lottie says, howdy, I've finally made it to a stream for the first time in like 2 weeks! Welcome back! Spark Major says, I would treat Shen Zixuan so right if given the chance. So I think Stitch is reading QJJ right now because we found an early copy of it. Crease-Noir says, I refuse to start another unfinished anime and all I want to read is Peerless right now, so instead I'm reading Odyssey. Nice. Kate says QJJ4 is spicy. Ooh. I think it's really satisfying for Stitch because Stitch did read the fan translation, and I believe that, like, the fan translations were, like, disappearing maybe when she was near the end, so she read a couple different ones, so I'm sure reading it fully translated nicely is, like, so satisfying. Meridia says, I want to read Morazushi before you start it here. I genuinely know nothing about the plot except Wei Wuxian died at some point. He dies on the first page, for sure. Horror Girl says, I haven't told anyone I'm bisexual and asexual. With you guys, I can tell you guys anything and I don't have to be ashamed of who I am. Hell yeah! This chat is a safe place to be exactly who you are. See, there's already other people in the chat. You are among others. Spark Major, what's it like to live my dream? Quinn Silva sending skin bugs, no! Biddy Becca, thank you for your donation. Thank you so much for the stream today. I got some bad news, so I was happy to see the notification pop up. Thank you truly. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you got some bad news. I'm here for good vibes. I'm here to scum. And I'm here to give you a virtual hug if you need it. So I'm glad that you're here with us today, and I hope I can cheer you up a little bit. Guang Hui says, I'm being harassed at dance practice and I'm afraid to do the show that I have this weekend. Harassed? Oh my god. Well, I hope that you could, like, get some help or tell somebody. That's awful. No one should be harassing you. The first chapter of Motozushi is hilarious, yes. It's very funny. It's very, like, kind of almost tongue-in-cheek, you know? Shang Qinghua says, you have been blessed by Shang Qinghua with good luck today. Oh, thank you very much. Is Jessica here by chance? Ellery is here. Yo, Ellery! Sorry I've missed the last 2 streams. I've been busy helping someone with a charity thing. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad to see you here today. I saw some really good Hoshwan art today. Made me think of you. Kate says, Lamonji is the only top on my top 10 Danmei men list, I think. Kate, are you you're a bottom lover? Hua Chung isn't on your top 10 Danmei list? Oh, but you think he bottoms, I forgot. Yeah, Spark Rangers is bottom. Creason Morris is Xiao Chie #1 all day, every day. Kate says, Hua Chung is a bottom? Oh my god, I just saw a tweet and it was like, this, one of the original descriptions MXTX made for TGCF, and it was like, well, oh fuck, I forgot what it was. It was like, she called him a bitch, and it was like, fuck heaven, fuck the earth. I can't remember what it was, but it was funny. Little bitch gong. Fuck heaven, fuck earth, little bitch gong. Iruru says, bottom Hua Chung is canon, guys. I was in Hua Chung's boots. Leo says, Peerless has become my favorite book to read in the hospital on Sundays. I find it funny to read a book with a character that has chronic illness as well in the hospital for chronic illness treatment. Oh my gosh, yeah! I'm glad that you can have a character like that to relate to. And I hope that you're doing good too. Kate says, Hualian are flexible. Vic Going says, are there any Danmei you'd recommend for newer Danmei readers? I have a friend who got into TGCF and I've been trying to find some good ones for her. I feel like the big three MXTX ones, lots of people read all three of those. Like, you read TGCF, then you read Mode Azushi or Scum Villain. And I think those are pretty good to get into right off the bat, because then you'll understand a lot of jokes in the fandom. And I think you'll be able to make a lot of friends quickly if you at least know the characters from Mode Azushi and Heaven Official's Blessing, you know what I mean? Personally, I'm really enjoying reading Arha right now. There's so many different routes you could take if you enjoy political stuff or more romantic stuff, but I think my most safe recommendation after TGCF would be Mode Azushi. Oobleck says Gojo is a bottom. I agree. 100%. Ellery says, it's been a 2-week, 24/7 continuous fundraiser. I've forgotten what sleep feels like. Oh my gosh. That does sound like a lot of work. Meridia says, I think people forget how common it was pre-canon that Hua Chung used his female form. I was thinking about that the other day. There's the mention that he, like, is always in disguise. Is there a direct mention that he uses a female form? I literally need to reread TGCF. In the first volume. Hua Chung never uses female form again because Shalian is scared of coochie. Femme fatale? Oh, they said approximately sometimes an old man, others a child, or a beautiful woman. I remember something like that. Yeah, it was like, it's like Hua Chung, it's horrifying. He can be in the shadows. He could be anywhere. He could be your mom. That Hua Chung is a seductress. Oh my god. Well, okay, he's so good at being Sanlong, right? Like, he really leans into being Sanlong. So imagine that as a woman. He could be anywhere, around you, outside you, inside you. Also, hey, Phaelites! Oh my god. Meridia says, I read a fic where Pei Ming tried to chat him up. We got Canon Chirong trying to chat up Blackwater. So Pei Ming trying to chat up Hua Chung is hilarious. He could be you. He could be me. If I'm Hua Chung and you're Hua Chung, who's flying the plane? That's so funny. Sumo, that's crazy that the Polish edition is the revised edition. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the revised scenes. That's really cool that you got a freaking version of that. That's awesome. If you're Hua Chung and I'm Hua Chung, who's getting Gaga pregnant? Oh yeah, also, it made me think of Mpreg. In Case File, I saw someone comment, that there's, like, Shei Ching Chung is so embarrassed of what He Yu's doing to him, but even though the conversation turns to, like, I could get you pregnant, he says that that it staunched the bleeding of his heart. And someone commented being like, Mpreg staunched the bleeding of his heart. And that made me laugh. Spark Major said, would you buy a revised English edition if it came out? 1000%! Oh my god, I'll buy anything TGC if it comes out. Kristen Mark says, 0 days since speaking of Mpreg. Spark Major, nice, yes. Orion says, I speak of M-Preg every day. No need to keep track. Spark Painter says, I wanted to send a clip of that to Kate. Kate, the sex scene is 50 pages long, and there's at least like 4 pages where they're just talking about impregnating each other. Faylight says, I'd be on a revised edition like Lamonji on Wei Wuxian. JT Joyful says, I sent my first message to you on Instagram. I sent a vid I wanted to share. First and only vid I've ever made. Oh, shit. That's awesome. I want to see. You, for Scum villain? Oh my god, wait. Should I show this? Do you want me to share it with the chat? Okay, wait. I'm gonna watch it first. Oh my god! Oh my god, stop. Okay. Stitch and I are gonna react to TikToks tomorrow, so I'll be sure to show her this. This is so fucking funny. I'll have it better quality in the video, but oh my god. That's so fucking funny. I'm gonna cry. And he did. Kate says, I think the psycho Ebola throws me off, but I'll power through for me, bun. Bro, to be honest, the psychological Ebola is barely even brought up. It's like he's crazy in the beginning and he's like, I have crazy man disease where I could go crazy, but he's under control. Like, he doesn't ever go, I mean, in the first 4 volumes, he doesn't ever really go crazy or anything like that. Hey, Kenzie! Kenzie and Steph, hey! Oobleck sent a gift membership. Thank you so much, Oobleck! The Wizard of Moss says, literally the word psychological Ebola appears so infrequently, they still startle me. Oobleck says, whoops. Oh, thank you. Is crazy man disease just male hysteria? Male hysteria. Kenzie says, just popping in to say hello really quick, but have fun reading extras. Oh, thank you. Hello, guys. I'm assuming you're with Steph. If that's what that meant. Oh, maybe not. Hi, Steph says, what did Kenzie say? LOL, I hope stream is going well, Kickter. Thank you. Oh, thank you for being a member for 10 months, Steph. Oh, I am with Steph. Okay, cool. That's cute. I hope you guys have fun hanging out. Ooh, Visual J just had pizza. Nice. We just had chicken salad. CSDL says, people are excited for you to get a certain extras. Me too, but I'm excited for this first one too. Lots and lots of fanfics have spawned from it. Oh shit. Okay. I'm ready. Who else is ready? Oh yeah, I always say this, that the energy of the chat is fantastic, and everybody in the chat is always so nice to each other. I've noticed it last stream, and it makes me so happy if anyone ever has a question to never feel like this is an unsafe place to ask questions. If you can't remember something or you're confused, like, don't ever think it's a dumb question. Feel free to answer it in the chat, and someone will reply super nicely, wanting to help out, because we're excited to talk about the stuff that we like. So don't ever feel bad if there's something you don't remember, or even a character. Like, I want everybody to feel excited while I'm reading, and just know that this is like, it's a safe space, and everyone here is super, super kind. Sammy is random says, let's ask dumb questions. Yeah, but no spoilers, just because I haven't read this book yet. So, you know, you guys are pretty good at being cheeky if there's something you remember, and like can be excited and stuff, and like it's all good. Don't feel like there's some harsh rules or you're gonna get like kicked out if you accidentally spoil something, but just know I haven't read it yet. And also, if you really want to get my attention for something, if you write Kichter, it appears in like bright orange on my screen. So while I'm reading, it's a bit easier for me to see. Otherwise, feel free to just be chatting excitedly or having side conversations or whatever in the chat. But I love being able to react with you guys and see everybody's reactions and hang out. Spark Major says, no spoilers, please. We're in the final stretch. Yes, thank you, Spark Major. And Crimson Queen, thank you so much, Crimson Queen, for your donation. Thank you so much. I hope you're doing good. Happy to see you here. And Kate sent another donation. Kate, thank you so much. Sorry, I have the hiccups. Kate says, I'm ready for Bingha to get cucked. Huh? Oh, brother. Moto says, the extras are where the real romance happens. And Sammy says, can you give me a quick catch up on who's the old palace master? Does he have a name? Does he have a name? I think I only know him as Old Palace Master. He doesn't have a canon name. Okay. He's just old. He's One Punch Man. OPM. Old Palace Master. He or Little Palace Mistress have no name. Interesting. Okay, cracking open book 4. Could somebody make a comment on the video with the timestamp saying we started reading at 7:35? 35 minutes in. Okay. Here we go. Bingmei and Binga's ultimate showdown. This is the ultimate showdown. You know the song. The first stop after leaving Sangchong Mountain, having been chased out by everyone else, was, of course, Lo Bingha's demon headquarters at the northern border of the demon realm. Shen Qingqiu had stayed in the underground palace for a while previously during his house arrest. At that time, the soil outside the perfect replica of the bamboo house had been overturned and strewn with fertilizer, while the bamboo, both tall and short, had died and been replanted, only for the new bamboo to die as well. But when they visited that old location now, he found that Lo Bingha's demonic lackeys must have employed some mysterious technique, for the bamboo had actually flourished to form a canopy of rustling green. The first 10 or so days after their arrival, as was to be expected, Lo Bingha had clung to Shen Qingqiu such that he couldn't be swatted off no matter what Shen Qingqiu tried. But these last few days, he'd started to show some restraint and suddenly become courteous. Citing his many pressing duties, due to the unending conflict in which the northern and southern borders had lately been embroiled, the amount of time he spent orbiting Shen Qingqiu greatly decreased. Naturally, this was an excuse. Shen Qingqiu was pretty sure that the true reason for Lo Bingha's absence was that he'd gracefully declined Lo Bingha's request to sleep in the same bed, thus yet again hurting Maiden Luo's glass heart. Goodbye. Oh my god, oh my god. It's like, we saved the world together. Shizen, can we sleep in the same bed? Look, he'd only refused out of habit. If Lo Bingha had just pestered him a little more, he would have agreed. Okay, that's sweet. Who could have guessed that after a mere wave of his hand, Lo Binghe would rush out the door to go find a corner to sulkily grow mushrooms in? That reminds me so much of, there was like a little interview side, what are those called? Meat bun theaters of like Chuaning preferring Moran or Taeshin Jun, and you know, he's the same kind of shizen of just like, at least Taeshin Jun would just do it and not ask me any embarrassing questions. Kate says he's just Tamaki. Yes, I thought of that too. Growing mushrooms. Shen Qingqiu suspected that over these few days, Lo Binghe had probably gone to hide in the inner hall, so he decided he might as well head over there himself to soothe him. All were forbidden from entering the inner hall except for Lo Binghe. Needless to say, all didn't include Shen Qingqiu. Lo Binghe had said before that Shen Qingqiu was free to wander anywhere in the underground palace, and that he could even do so with his eyes shut. This order had been passed down to everyone, so obviously there were no utter fools who would dare stop him. Shen Qingqiu boldly slipped into the hall, but to his surprise, he didn't see Lo Binghe. Thus, instead, he gave this private little space of Lo Binghe's, which had been kept tightly under wraps in the past, a deep and thorough look. Just as he was preparing to also give the room a deep and thorough probe, the stone gates were flung open and a silhouette barreled in, stumbling and tripping. At first, Shen Qingqiu's expression sharpened, but after taking a good look at this person, he blurted out, "Lo Binghe?" It seemed that Lo Binghe hadn't anticipated that another person would be within the inner hall. His dazed pupils contracted, leaving Shen Qingqiu's face reflected in his jet-black irises, and what had originally been overflowing murderous intent abruptly transformed into 10,000 points of stupefaction. But Shen Qingqiu failed to notice this. All he could see at the moment was the fresh blood drenching Lo Binghe's face and body. Lo Binghe took several steps forwards, then his legs went weak. Shen Qingqiu went to meet him just in time to catch Lo Binghe as he fell forward into his embrace. His arm automatically and easily wrapped around Lo Binghe's blood-soaked back. What happened? Who did this? To think there would come a day when Lo Binghe could be beaten up to this extent, and in his own territory. Alright, to be honest, this couldn't be considered a bug in the code. If the male lead of a stallion novel had turned gay, what type of plot development could qualify as a bug? Oh my god. Natasha says, if Binghe is Tamaki, then Lo Chinga and Master Airplane are the homosexual supporting cast. Yes! Lo Binghe's throat bobbed and his teeth were clenched so tightly that they seemed about to break, but he still furiously spat out a word from between them. Leave. Leave? Meaning he wanted Shen Qingqiu to escape? Alright, let's leave, Shen Qingqiu said quickly. As he spoke, he moved to support Lo Binghe's waist. Unexpectedly, Lo Binghe's lips thinned and he violently shoved him away. It was the first time Shen Qingqiu had ever been shoved away by this particular person, and he froze on the spot. Did the kid want him to leave by himself first? Was he afraid he'd drag him down? Moto, thank you for your donation! I just noticed the fox and ferret plushies in the corner. Those are so cute. Oh yes! They're so cute. Those were made by my friend Yi, Toriki. I was gifted them by Emma and Sugar Kiss, actually. Yeah, I can't wait to decorate with them. That seemed like the only reasonable explanation, so he immediately said, "Don't fuss, this master will take you back to Tsangchong Mountain." The veins on Lo Binghe's forehead bulged. "No!" he snarled. Shen Qingqiu thought he was throwing another tantrum. "How can you fuss when you're already in such a state? We'll hide there for a bit first." As Shen Qingqiu spoke, his palm pressed against Lo Binghe's back. Lo Binghe's face went rigid. From behind him flowed a warm, ceaseless stream of spiritual energy. Wave after wave of it was sent into his body. After a while of this, Shen Qingqiu decided he'd done about enough and withdrew his hand to unsheath Shuya. He pulled up Lo Binghe and lifted off, soaring into the skies. Shuya was from Wanjian Peak, so regardless of the time, riding Shuya through Tsangchong Mountain's aerial defense barrier didn't trip any alarms. Therefore, Shen Qingqiu could bring another person back to Qingjing Peak completely undetected. It was just that, while concealing this from the other peaks was possible, concealing it from his own disciples was not. When he crept into the bamboo house, dragging Lo Binghe beside him, people were already waiting inside. Ming Fan was holding a broom, sweeping the floor while chattering away. Ning Ying stood on her toes on a little bamboo stool with her sleeves rolled up, using a horsetail whisk to clear out the dust on the bookcase's topmost shelf. Shen Qingqiu kicked the door open, giving them both quite a scare. After a proper second look, right away, they let out a cry of "Shiz!" Shen Qingqiu made a zipping motion before his lips, instantly stopping them from making another sound. "Don't yell," he whispered. "Do you want to summon that Baijian Peak crowd too?" If Lo Qingge knew of their return, he'd definitely come over, and if he came over, there would be no way to hide Lo Binghe while he was in this state. One must understand that whenever there was a glimpse of Lo Binghe on Sangjiang Mountain, the ones most raring to deliver a beatdown unto him were those terrorists from Baijian Peak. Because of Shen Qingqiu, Lo Binghe dared not strike back, so every time he ended up being a sitting duck as they chased and pummeled him. Even if they couldn't beat him to death, it was incredibly troublesome. Ning Yingying's apricot eyes went wider, and she covered her mouth with both hands while automatically nodding, the image not unlike that of a little chick pecking for grain. As she gave the blood-soaked Lo Binghe another look, she removed her hands and gasped, "Shizen, what happened to Aluo?" Lo Binghe sent Mingfan a sideways glance, and an expression of extreme loathing mixed with disbelief flashed in the depths of Lo Binghe's eyes. The look was bone-piercingly cold. Mingfan couldn't help but clutch his broom tighter and shrink into himself, almost falling to the ground right there. But Shen Qingqiu didn't catch this little exchange and helped Lo Binghe to sit on the side of the bed. "He suffered some injuries. You two head out first. Is the medicine chest from Chenchao Peak still where it used to be?" "Nothing inside the bamboo house has been moved," said Ning Yingying. "Everything's in its place. Does Shizen need his disciples to help?" "No need. This master can do it himself." After chasing off both disciples, Shen Qingqiu helped Lo Binghe sit up, then placed a pillow behind his back for him to lean on. Only after this did he crouch to remove Lo Binghe's shoes. Lo Binghe remained silent, his lips pressed tightly together. Once Shen Qingqiu lowered his head, Lo Binghe's line of sight focused on his pale nape, his gaze unfathomable as a let me read that again. Once Shen Qingqiu lowered his head, Lo Binghe's line of sight focused on his pale nape, his gaze unfathomable as a rigid wariness circulated within him. Shen Qingqiu assumed that he was grievously injured and lacked the strength to speak. Noticing how his forehead trickled with cold sweat, he brought over some clean water and soft towels to help him wipe his face. Then he picked out a selection of bottles from the medicine chest. Mu Qingfan had issued to him before turning around, reaching to undo Lo Binghe's clothes. Lo Binghe abruptly caught his hand. The force of this grip was tremendous. Shen Qingqiu frowned, but he couldn't use his other hand to smack Lo Binghe's forehead. He lowered his voice to say, "Stop being difficult, let me see your wound." Still, Lo Binghe refused to release his hand. Shen Qingqiu's left hand was clutching an assortment of medicinal pills, and he'd long since lost his patience. At this moment, he decided to just cram them all into Lo Binghe's mouth. Now that a few dozen medicinal pills, all of various sizes, had been stuffed into his mouth, Lo Binghe's face was dark. He finally withdrew his hand. Shen Qingqiu took this chance to tear open his clothes. After a couple of glances, he was a bit of a loss to where to start. In the end, he'd only risked using a soft towel to dab at a large bloodstain. Threads of black chi oozed from curling flesh. It didn't look like a regular wound. Otherwise, with Lo Binghe's regeneration abilities, it would have flawlessly healed long ago. Shen Qingqiu carefully cleaned it for him while saying, "Where have you been hiding these past few days? Who did you fight? Who could leave you like this?" From beginning to end, Lo Binghe remained silent. Once Shen Qingqiu finished wiping his chest, he followed Mu Qingfan's teachings and took Lo Binghe's wrist to examine his pulse. If the situation really was bad, he'd call Mu Qingfan over first and figure out the rest later. As he studied Lo Binghe's pulse, Shen Qingqiu gave his hand and chest another couple of glances. A strange uneasiness crept over his heart. He had a vague feeling that something was wrong, as if something was missing. But when he looked at Lo Binghe's paling lips and cold eyes, Shen Qingqiu couldn't spare it too much thought. He sat on the edge of the bed and continued to send spiritual energy into him. As that energy flowed into Lo Binghe's meridians, Shen Qingqiu felt his stiff muscles gradually relax. He quietly sighed with relief, then reached out, intending to pull Lo Binghe into his arms. Once again, Lo Binghe struggled free. Now that Shen Qingqiu had been shoved away a second time, he tossed aside the towel in his right hand and said helplessly, "What's wrong with you now?" Lo Binghe's eyes overflowed with a wary guardedness. Shen Qingqiu internally rolled his. "We've already reached this point, and you're still throwing a tantrum," he chided him. "The simple fact that I wouldn't sleep with you 2 days ago was enough to make you this angry for this long?" At these words, the corner of Lo Binghe's mouth seemed to twitch. Upset, Shen Qingqiu changed the direction of his outstretched hand to touch Lo Binghe's forehead instead. "It's a bit hot," he muttered. "Do you feel dizzy?" Suddenly, Ning Yingying's voice drifted in from outside. "Liu Shushu, you can't go in. It's a bad time for Shizen right now." The usual Ning Yingying was soft-spoken, her her manner coquettish, sometimes to the point that she was impossible to understand if you weren't right next to her. So if she was acting so out of character as if to yell, she was obviously sending a message to Shen Qingqiu when he was inside. He leapt headlong off the bed. Right as he closed the curtains behind him, the bamboo house's door slammed open with a thud. Luo Qingge burst into the room, sword on his back. Shen Qingqiu had one arm behind his own back as he turned around, eyebrow raised. I trust Liu Shidi has been well? Luo Qingge opened the fire right away. Sangzhong Mountain has a rule forbidding entrance to Lo Binghe. How come I've never heard of this rule? It's new. Mu Qingfan reached out his head to interject. That's right, Shizen. Sangzhong Mountain really does have that rule now. It's just that Jiangman Shibo hasn't yet engraved it upon the rule slab. Everyone knows. You shut up! Shen Qingqiu scolded him. Don't think I don't know that you're the one who called Luo Qingge here, you rascal. That kid had admired Bai Zan Peak for forever. Anytime something slightly noteworthy happened, he reported it to Luo Qingge. He'd practically become their personal spy on Qingjing Peak. Though one could say that widespread admiration of Baijian Peak among the youths was understandable, this kind of little maneuver, even going so far to secretly tattle, was simply shameful. I'll teach you a lesson later. Having been scolded, Ming Fan wilted and withdrew in dismay. Ning Yingying had been apprehensively standing at the door, but needing to vent her anger, she viciously stomped on his foot, all while muttering that he'd ruined things. The moment the two of them retreated, Luo Qingge threw open the bed curtain. Lo Binghe was half sitting on the bed, his eyes flashing with a savage light, not unlike a young wounded leopard. His murderous intent roiled as he glared at Luo Qingge, his gaze like unto both icy knives and poisonous flames. A spiritual blast was clasped within his hand, ready to fire at any moment. Shen Qingqiu rushed to put himself between them, bracing one leg on the bedboard as he shielded Lo Binghe behind him. Shidi, stop this! Luo Qingge was surprised. He's injured? Shen Qingqiu wanted dearly to bow to him. He sighed. If he wasn't injured, I wouldn't have brought him back. Just pretend you didn't see anything, Liu Shidi. Don't chase him off. If he's injured, why not remain in the demon realm? It was because he'd remained in the demon realm that he'd gotten injured. Something happened. Did those demonic monsters stage a revolt? Shen Qingqiu sent Lo Binghe a brief sideways glance. He didn't actually know if this was the outcome of a demonic internal affair or whether it was appropriate to say so, and thus he gave a vague answer. They might have. He should clean up his own mess. Sangzhong Mountain will always be here to support you, but not him. Lo Binghe suddenly let out a cold laugh. This aggravated the wound on his chest, and he gritted his teeth, silently braving the pain. Watching him endure and suffer, a sudden rush of courage bloomed within Shen Qingqiu, and he said sternly, Liu Shudi, don't forget that this is Qingjing Peak. Whether Qingjing Peak gave someone safe harbor was, it went without saying, a decision to be made by the Qingjing Peak Lord. Luo Qingge's expression became cold with anger and disappointment. Then continue protecting him. After throwing down these words, he stomped out the door. Wow, he's so jealous. Sammy is random. Thank you for your donation. I want to take a man back to cloud recesses. Yes. After throwing down these words, he stomped out the door. It hadn't been 2 seconds before he came stomping back, and he threw something into Shen Qingqiu's arms. Shen Qingqiu caught it and looked. It was that fan of his again, the fan that had fallen out of his grasp sometime during the chaotic battle on the Luo River. Every time it was Luo Qingge who picked it up. It seemed like his fate and the fan's were quite intertwined. Maybe I should just straight up give it to him as a present. He coughed dryly, then said genially, I'm forever troubling Luo Shidi. Luo Qingge left with a flick of his sleeves. Oh my god, these two! Lo Binghe's voice rang out from behind Shen Qingqiu, the sound a little raspy. Luo Qingge? It was said as a genuine doubt-filled inquiry. Don't worry about him, said Shen Qingqiu. He's just like this, all bark and no bite. After barking, he leaves. Lo Binghe narrowed his eyes, his face gradually taking on a thoughtful expression. Shen Qingqiu placed the fan on the table. Have no fear, he consoled him. Since this master has spoken his piece, he won't come bothering you for some time. If the Baijian Peak disciples come to gang up on you again, you can hit back, as long as you don't kill them. It'll be fine. There's no need to accommodate them. This would also save Qingjing Peak some face. The more Lo Binghe listened, the odder the expression in his eyes became. As if testing the waters, he said the word, Shizen? Shen Qingqiu cocked his head. Both his tone and expression brimmed with 120% warm indulgence, a promise to grant whatever request Lo Binghe might have. Oh my god, they're so smitten. Well, I mean, something's obviously up with Binghe, but... Lo Binghe withdrew his gaze, the corner of his mouth twitching. Nothing. I just wanted to try saying it. No matter the situation, this child would unfailingly call out to him, Shizen, Shizen. None of this was news to Shen Qingqiu. He stroked the back of Lo Binghe's head. Why don't you sleep? Whatever is happening over there with the demons can be left until you've finished recovering. Lo Binghe gave him an almost imperceptible nod. At this, Shen Qingqiu bent down and removed the pillow at his back, then helped him lie down. Before Lo Binghe met the bed, Shen Qingqiu carefully unfastened his hair tie, in case his skull pressed on it in his sleep and he hurt his head. Oh, Shen Qingqiu does love him so much. Only after doing this did Shen Qingqiu blow out the lamps, remove his own outer robe with a rustle, and get into bed as well. Oh my god. He held Lo Binghe and said, Sleep, this master will regulate your breathing. Now he'd both hugged and slept with Lo Binghe. That ought to dispel that little tantrum from before, right? Shen Qingqiu closed his eyes, adjusting his spiritual circulation to its calmest possible state, a placid as evening dew, and used it to gently flush Lo Binghe's meridians. He's taking care of him so nicely. In the darkness, a pair of clear, glittering eyes flashed with cold light. Even after a long time, they did not close, but remained fixed on the peacefully sleeping Shen Qingqiu. Shen Qingqiu's long hair laid drape over his arms, and between his fingers, Lo Binghe took hold of one of those black locks, his grip slowly clenching, and soundlessly mouthed the name over and over. Shen Qingqiu, Shen Qingqiu. A dark and sinister curve tugged his lips upwards. The silent smile on Lo Binghe's face grew wider and wider, as if he discovered some amusing plaything. His eyes began to shine with excitement, one that seemed to hold the slightest hint of cruelty. Oh no! No! Not just as everything was being so sweet and kind. That night, Shen Qingqiu's dreams were both torturous and unending. When the dawn of the second day came, the first to open his eyes was Lo Binghe. Some color had returned to his snow-pale face, and his complexion was much improved over how it had been the previous night. On the contrary, the one who'd been bursting with energy the evening prior before they retired, who'd held Lo Binghe all the way until they woke, was now dazed, drowsy, and seemed a bit fatigued. Shen Qingqiu had in fact passed an entire night's worth of spiritual energy into Lo Binghe, not stopping even after he'd dozed off. Oh my god! Was there an illustration? I totally missed it. Oh! I completely glossed over this picture. That's creepy. Oh, the cinema! The mise-en-scène! As he's taking care of him, you can see in the mirror he's crazy! Oh no, he's hot when he's crazy. Lo Binghe slowly fluttered his eyelashes. For a while, he gazed at Shen Qingqiu with a complicated expression, then reached out to move Shen Qingqiu's arms. The moment Shen Qingqiu was moved, he startled up, jolted even further awake. Lo Binghe took this chance to sit up and leave the bed. Shen Qingqiu was profoundly bewildered. Usually it was impossible to dislodge Lo Binghe even when he kicked, yet this morning Lo Binghe had voluntarily detached himself. He pinched the bridge of his nose and wrinkled his brow. What are you doing up so early? Making breakfast? You don't have to today. Then he saw that Lo Binghe was wearing only a thin inner robe, the collar left undone. His vast crisscrossing wounds had already been closed, leaving nothing more than faint marks. They would probably be done healing by the end of the day. However, this left almost half of his chest wholly exposed to the elements. The outer robe from the night prior could no longer be worn, so Shen Qingqiu reminded him, "Your old clothes are still in the side room. Ying Ying and the others haven't touched them." Oh my god, he kept his old clothes. Lo Binghe slipped around and behind the screen, heading to the side room. A spotless little world of its own met his eyes. There were furniture sets constructed from green bamboo, complete with a table, chair, bed, and cabinet. At the head of the bed, there was even a small stand upon which lay neatly shelved scrolls and all manner of brushes, the latter arranged according to length. Upon opening the cabinet doors, he found folded white robes, all stowed away in a tidy fashion. Above them even hung high-quality jade accessories in various styles. In the time Lobingha was in the side room, Shenqingqiu slowly rose from the bed. He scanned for where he'd left his shoes while rubbing his temples. Kai, thank you for your donation. I don't know how we had the strength not to jump Shenqingqiu's bones. Yeah. Well, I can only imagine how this feels right now being... I'm assuming this is like Bing... like the original Bing who was like abused by Shenqingqiu, and now seeing how much respect he's being treated with. It must be like crazy. What a terrible fucking sleep he'd have. He was about to lose it. It'd been a dream after dream, dream after dream after dream after dream. Even his shameful dark memory of fighting the Skinner demon in Shanghu City had been dredged up, and even dreams within dreams. The Immortal Alliance Conference, Jinlan City, Huayue City, the Holy Mausoleum, he'd gone through everything like a merry-go-round, including the times he'd been beaten, times he'd been coughed up blood, and times his body had sprouted all over with foliage. Having had so many dreams crammed into his head in one night, it was about to explode. It was abso-fucking-lutely because he'd passed all that spiritual energy into Lobingha while sleeping. Whenever Lobingha's psyche was unstable, anyone who slept near him would suffer. At that moment, Lobingha finished dressing and emerged from the side room with a turn. Shenqingqiu had yet to find his shoes, but he stopped looking. Instead, he waved at Lobingha to beckon him over to the bed, then pulled him down. However, Lobingha failed to be pulled. He raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing?" Shenqingqiu felt around beneath the pillow and pulled out a hair tie alongside a wooden brush. "What do you think?" Only then did Lobingha obediently sit down in front of him while glancing around the bamboo house. As Shenqingqiu brushed his hair, he asked on a whim, "What are you looking at?" Shenqingqiu is like mothering so hard right now. Like he is really taking care of him. Shenqingqiu, why aren't you letting me be the tsundere that I am with you? Lobingha's gaze remained sharp and cold, but his voice warmed and softened. "These past few years, every time I returned to Qingjing Peak, it was in a rush. I never could give it a proper look." Shenqingqiu held the hair tie between his teeth and impishly braided him a tiny plait in secret. "Then these days you can look your fill. I'll pay Baijian Peak a visit later and let Lochinga properly discipline the lot of them. There's absolutely no rationale to justify Qingjing Peak disciples being chased around by Baijian Peaks." Lobingha stilled for a while, then he slowly turned his head and smiled at him before saying sweetly, "Shizen? Shizen. It was as if this was Lobingha's very first time using such a novel term of address. He repeated it again and again without pause. Every time he did, he received an answer, and he grew increasingly addicted to it until Shenqingqiu couldn't take it anymore. He picked up his fan and swatted the back of Lobingha's head. "Enough with the shizen. Once is sufficient. Say what you mean properly." Now that he'd been struck on the back of his head, Lobingha's expression darkened, but he swiftly rectified it and smiled ambiguously. His gaze swept to the side. "Did Shizen sleep well last night?" "Could I sleep well while holding you?" Shenqingqiu thought, but he said mildly, "I dreamed of a number of old affairs, that's all." "Then next time, should I hold Shizen while we sleep instead?" Oh my god. Oh my god. Mommy, sorry. Mommy, sorry. Of course he could say such words so casually. Having accomplished his task, Shenqingqiu patted his head and pushed him off the bed. Go, 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 go. Then Shenqingqiu did as he promised and paid Baijian Peak a visit. Heading over there was a familiar and easy. He didn't even need to deliver a visitor's notice. After swallowing 2 mouthfuls of light congee Mingfan had sent him, he adjusted his clothes and sauntered off. He left Lobingha behind in the bamboo house, admonishing him to be good and wait until this master comes back. But as if Lobingha would be willing to be good and wait. Lobingha had just opened the door when he saw a delicate orange-colored figure bound toward him. He took a good look, then said, full of smiles, "Ying Ying." Unexpectedly, Ning Ying Ying shuddered and pale and shocked. "What's wrong with you, Aluo? Did you hit your head? Why did you address me like that? What the hell is with this Ying Ying? That's terrifying." I saw a TikTok earlier today, and it was like, this gay guy who I guess normally has like a very flamboyant voice. It was like jump scaring my mom with my straight voice. And she was like, oh my god, like where's my son? I feel like this is exactly what's happening here. Lobingha fell silent. Ning Yingying's expression of pure horror had yet to fade. Why didn't you call me Ning Shijie? A pause. Ning Shijie. That Shijie was uttered with a fair amount of internally gnashed teeth. Ning Shijie sighed in relief and patted her chest as she chided him. Now that's better. Changing terms of address like that out of the blue. It didn't sound like you at all. Shizen may doubt on you, but you must always respect seniority. That way we dishonor neither our status as Changing Peak disciples, nor Shizen's teachings. Kai! Oh my goodness, Kai! Thank you so much for your donation! That's so kind of you! I really appreciate that, Kai. Thank you so much for being so generous. Are we sure Scum Villain isn't a harem novel because Shenjingto's collecting men left and right? I agree. He really, really is. No one can avoid his wife Beam. Like, for real. Everyone is in love with him. Thank you again, Kai, so much. I really, really appreciate that. I'm really enjoying this extra so far. I'm so curious. And also, I love seeing that Shen Jingqiu is like, let me undress you, like, let me take care of you, let me sleep with you. And then the moment Bingha's like, can I hold you? He's like, enough. Like, you see how he gets embarrassed when the focus is put on him? If it's like, if he's the one doing the doting, if he's the one doing the affection, he's not embarrassed. But once it's turned on him, he's like, ugh. He's so tsundere. I love it. And you can tell it's their routine. Yes, isn't that so sweet? They have a routine. He does his hair. Oh, it makes me so happy. Bingha gets vaguely cold and Shen Jingqiu's like, come here, sweetie. Upon hearing this, veins bulged in Lobingha's forehead and he lost his patience. I have something to ask you. Understanding shortly dawned on Ning Yingying's face. With a wave, she solemnly placed a whisk and broom in Lobingha's hands. Shijie understands. Here. Silence. Don't take offense, Aluo, Ning Yingying said sincerely. You invariably want to clean Shizen's bamboo house by yourself. I know that. But the two of you were gone for a long time, so Dashi Shang and I could only get started on it ourselves. However, since you've returned, I'll leave it to you. Shijie won't compare with you for chores. When it comes to this, Shijie still understands. Like, fuck you do. Lobingha turned and left for Shanshu Peak. That's so funny. Oh my god. She's like, I know you're a freak and you want to clean this place by yourself. I know you want to sniff all of Shizen's belongings and I'll let you do it alone. Emma, thank you so much for gifting a membership. Emma, I really appreciate that, Emma. I hope you're having a good day. Bingha is like, what the fuck is the me of this universe on? Honestly. She respects his freak, yep. Literally, Gee. Shanshu Peak's disciples had always welcomed him very warmly. No matter where he went, it was the same. In the past, Shen Jingqiu had given Lobingha quite a few miscellaneous errands. Thus, one could often have found him on Shanshu Peak. From time to time, he'd gone there to deliver a letter, distribute a notice, invite someone over, or borrow something. When male disciples from other peaks came, they would at least sneak a couple of peeps, peering around and around until they ended up looking inside the maiden's quarters or bathhouse. Naturally, they'd be, to death by the maiden's swords long before they made it to the bathhouse. Only Lobingha had treated the peak's disciples with respect and consciously maintained a strict distance every time he came. His reputation at Shanshu Peak was correspondingly high. Therefore, everyone on Shanshu Peak had given him tacit permission to enter the inner hall to wait. With her face veiled, Lo Mingyan politely bowed in greeting. Luo Shishang. Lobingha had yet to speak with her when she nodded at him and continued, "Did Luo Shishang come to invite Shizen on Shen Shibo's orders? Please wait here for a while. I will make first arrangements for my Taoist friends from Tianyi Temple, then I will return." The 3 Taoist friends she spoke of were those 3 beautiful nuns. Their lovely, delicate figures were enveloped in aquamarine Taoist robes as they orbited her. 6 liquid eyes stared at Lo Binghe as they spent a moment whispering into each other's ears, then spent another moment stamping their feet coquettishly, their cheeks flushed red. They were like 3 radiant blue blooms circled around a slender lotus, playful and giggling, before they all headed out as a group. As promised, Lo Binghe waited patiently for Lo Mingyan to return. After standing there for only a short while, he realized that the corner of a small book was peeking out from amidst the mess of scrolls on her desk. Oh no. It was obvious that it had been shoved beneath them in a hurry. So Lo Mingyan also had things she wanted to hide. He casually pulled out the booklet she'd hidden and gave it a rough glance over. Finding the cover gaudy, with each of the titles 3 words written in a more ridiculous cursive than the last, he wrinkled his brow. He smiled at the signature of Sleeping Willow Flower and flipped it open, and was struck silent. Oh, shit. Kate says Lo Mingyan has kicked her and we're the nuns. Red alert, he's found the fanfic. Oh my god. When Shen Qingqiu returned from Baijian Peak after drinking tea and having a heart-to-heart, Lo Binghe was waiting for him within the bamboo house. The moment he entered, he felt a gaze shoot over him, boiling and burning. Shen Qingqiu made an internal face. "Well, now I'm a bit afraid to close the door. What's going on?" Atop the bed, Lo Binghe reclined on his side and smiled. "What's wrong? Why won't Shizen come here?" While it was said in that same soft tone, touched by a little bit of hurt, his eyes told a different story. He was looking Shen Qingqiu up and down as if he'd never seen him before. It was like he was trying to scrape off a layer of Shen Qingqiu's skin with his eyes. Shen Qingqiu's appearance was stellar. His shoulders were neither too broad nor bulky, while his waist was thin and his legs long. Enveloped in Qingjing Peak's many-layered teal uniform, he was immaculate and slender, with a great deal of graceful beauty. Yes, it was his graceful beauty. Shen Qingqiu pushed the door shut behind him. He had yet to get within 5 steps of Lo Binghe when he was yanked forward, and he fell into Lo Binghe's embrace as those arms tightened around his waist. Lo Binghe's fingers trailed down his side, occasionally squeezing and kneading. Hand, thank you, hand, your hand! When Shen Qingqiu went to grab Lo Binghe's paw in a backhanded grip, he twisted. Somehow, Shen Qingqiu found himself pressed down on top of Lo Binghe's thigh with his legs apart, trapped in place. In the next moment, Lo Binghe caressed his nape before pulling him down, and his lips were captured again. He dared not move. Fuck, in this position, he really didn't dare move. Though they'd engaged in activities far surpassing this a while back, the previous time had been a special situation. Plus, there'd been an impending disaster, so there had been no time to worry about shyness or reservations. And while they'd been fairly intimate during their near half-month in the demon realm, for some reason, whether out of bashfulness or something else, Lo Binghe had never done anything too forward. Yet at this time, and at this location, the situation was completely different. The sun hadn't even set yet. Was sex in broad daylight really okay? Had he sheltered this child so much it'd broken him? Oh god. Shen Qingqiu was highly unaccustomed to being so close to someone while wide awake, but Lo Binghe was a porcelain doll who shattered at the slightest touch, and he would never survive another careless drop. So Shen Qingqiu reciprocated Lo Binghe's actions and opened his mouth a little. Speaking of, something was strange. Shen Qingqiu had been in this body for ages now, and it had always felt like so, cold and unfeeling from head to toe, no matter where he was touched. Nothing tickled him regardless of where he was poked, and this seemed to have no sensitive spots. But as Lo Binghe kneaded him, the pressure gently yet varied. He felt a nigh unbearable prickling itch. Why is he so proficient? Why? Even though he's a virgin? Why? An instant expert after only one time? Why? How is this fair? I'm going to sue. I'm going to yell. Why? Oh my god, he's being fondled by the non-virgin Binghe who knows how to press his buttons. This is crazy. Oh my god. What? He's good at this? What? Lo Binghe nibbled on Chen Qingqiu's lip while his tongue probed and prodded within Chen Qingqiu's mouth. Having difficulties keeping up with the pace, Chen Qingqiu began to pant faintly. However, whenever he moved his head away even a little, Lo Binghe pulled him back and kissed him even more deeply. Unable to catch his breath, his eyes squeezed shut in a frown. Chen Qingqiu was naturally unable to see the malice flashing within Lo Binghe's gaze. As his perch on Lo Binghe's thigh was unsteady, he involuntarily reached out and grabbed at Lo Binghe's collar, but he missed the cloth, instead landing on the skin of Lo Binghe's chest, that smooth, unblemished skin of his chest. In that moment, Chen Qingqiu's mind went blank and white as snow. Then his palm suddenly exerted great force, and he fired a spiritual blast at Lo Binghe's heart. Lo Binghe took this powerful surge of spiritual energy head on, but he remained utterly unaffected. With a cold laugh, he encircled Chen Qingqiu's right wrist with one hand, while continuing to press on his nape with the other. Then he skillfully flipped them over, rolling them onto the bed together. Looking down at Chen Qingqiu from overhead, he smiled brightly. "What's wrong, Shizen? Don't you love me very much? So why aren't you willing to give in to me?" "Go fuck yourself!" "Beat it," spat Chen Qingqiu. Oh, did he feel his chest and feel that he didn't have the scar? Lo Binghe's lips and teeth went from gentle worrying to vicious biting, instantly filling Chen Qingqiu's mouth with the taste of blood. Chen Qingqiu formed a seal with his left hand, summoning Shu Ya from where it lay on the table. When Lo Binghe's movement slightly slowed, Chen Qingqiu took the chance to kick upward and plant his foot against the imposter's chest. But he hadn't managed to get all the way up when something clamped down on his ankle. He looked back to see Lo Binghe's hand grasped there, at which point it abruptly yanked, dragging Chen Qingqiu back beneath him a second time. Right after, he forced Chen Qingqiu to straighten, then with a hand still clasped around Chen Qingqiu's calf, folding Chen Qingqiu's legs against his chest with a downward press. He accomplished this entire set of movements in a single breath. "Where is he?" yelled Chen Qingqiu. Lo Binghe cocked his head. "Who are you asking about? If it's me, aren't I right here?" Now able to catch his breath, Chen Qingqiu asked, "How did you end up here?" Lo Binghe toyed with his hair. "For my part, I'm more curious as to how Shizen found me out." Motherfucker. There were sword scars on both Lo Binghe's palm and chest, once given to him by Chen Qingqiu himself. "Do you really want to find out?" asked Chen Qingqiu. Lo Binghe lowered his body further and said, his voice chilly, yet colored by a hint of provocation. "It's fine if you don't want to say. We have plenty of time, enough for me to slowly find out." "Then why not take a look behind you?" The curve on Lo Binghe's lips froze. Startled, he abruptly swiveled his head back, guard raised. A face exactly like his, partly illuminated and partly in shadow, rushed forward. That face was like snow, like frost, frigid down to the core, yet its eyes burned like ghost fire, the color a searing, bloody crimson. "The only one who can beat me is me! The only one who can fuck Shizen is me!" Oh god. Spider-Man meme, literally. Lo Binghe always just spawning in behind people. Yes! He's right behind me, isn't he? "My boyfriend is a dramatic virgin. You're not him." Oh my god. I can only imagine after, is Chen Qingqiu gonna be like, "I knew he wasn't you because he was actually good at touching me." I mean... Within the bamboo house were two identical people with the same exact face. Other than one being dressed in white, the other in black, there was not a single discernible difference between them. At the black-robed Lo Binghe's waist hung a sword sealed tightly within layers and layers of paper talismans. To think the once kingly Shin Mo, overflowing with power and tyrannical energy, would end up bound in such a rough and unseemly manner, unable to release a single wisp of demonic energy. Lo Binghe's voice came in a hoarse but forceful whisper. "Unhand him!" A spiritual blast accompanied this quiet, enraged snarl. The white-robed Lo Binghe locked firmly between Chen Qingqiu's legs, promptly and decisively returned it. The two attacks met in midair with a harsh sound, scattering dust and smoke throughout the room. Lo Binghe wore an expression of incredible disappointment. "You couldn't have returned a little earlier or a little later?" he asked contemptuously. "You just had to choose a time like this." He had yet to finish speaking when Chen Qingqiu curled his pointer and middle finger. Shu Ya's hilt trembled slightly where the sword had stabbed into the wall, then flew into his hand. His grip clenched into a fist, and he immediately swung his arm, chopping downward. Sandwiched between two attacks, Lo Binghe finally couldn't maintain that provocative posture any longer. He flipped off the bed, not forgetting to give Shen Qingqiu's waist another squeeze before leaving. Oh my god. Oh my god, of course. Then gracefully landed at the other end of the bamboo house. Shizun is so merciless with his attacks, he said, adopting a sad expression. Doesn't his heart hurt for his disciple even a little? Get the fuck out! Who's your Shizun? This guy was the male lead of the Zhongdian stallion novel Proud Immortal Demon Way, the original flavor Lo Binghe. Previously, the system's punishment protocol had set him loose, this godly man who was admired by Zhongdian readers everywhere. On those forums, anyone who brought him up reverently uttered the same name, Bing Ge. Shen Qingqiu could never have anticipated that this guy would show up not only within the punishment protocol, but within the standard world as a real solid entity. All this given, it seemed like the system's so-called punishment hadn't just been setting a character simulation loose, it had directly pulled Bing Ge over from a parallel universe, one that belonged to the original novel. Ever since the day before, Shen Qingqiu had nursed the vague feeling that something was off, but Maiden Luo had always been the type to kick up a fuss or act spoiled at the top drop of a hat. Plus, because he'd been anxious and concerned, Shen Qingqiu had only paid attention to treating his injuries and failed to give Lo Binghe's behavior careful thought. On the real Lo Binghe's palm and chest were sword scars that had been left by Shen Qingqiu himself. That child treasured even that kind of thing, and he refused to heal them, instead preserving them on his body. How, therefore, could Shen Qingqiu ever get to touch smooth, unblemished skin? That's crazy, he kept his scars. In the end, he and Lo Binghe were too unfamiliar with each other's bodies. That was why it had taken him so long to figure out what was wrong here. 1,000 fortunes that he'd reined it in, right at the edge of the cliff. So close, so close. He'd almost lost all integrity. Cough. There. Oh my god. He's like, it's only because we hadn't really had sex since that one time. At this point, that leave Lo Binghe had directed at him the day before on their first encounter within the underground palace became much easier to understand. The word hadn't meant, hurry and run, I don't want to drag you down, but rather, get the fuck away from me, you scumbag piece of shit! I almost tapped that, phew! The sword-carrying, black-robed Lo Binghe threw himself forward and said on a rush, Shizun, did that bastard do anything to you? Isn't calling him a bastard basically calling yourself one? It was only a roast for the sake of roasting. Shen Qingqiu looked at Lo Binghe's face, at its brimming urgency as he clung to him, unwilling to let go, and felt deeply relieved. Now this was how Lo Binghe should be. Shen Qingqiu cleared his throat, confirming that his clothes were neither torn nor crooked, and that his appearance was all in place before saying, This master is fine. He suddenly recalled how, the day before, the other Lo Binghe's body had been covered in wounds, his skin split and bleeding. He feared that this one might not have been left unscathed either, and quickly asked, What about you? Are you injured? Lo Binghe nodded. It's all healed already. Shen Qingqiu grabbed his wrist and flipped it over. Upon his palm was a white scar that could be called neither faint nor clear. Shen Qingqiu's heart stirred at the sight. What happened exactly? Where have you been the last 2 days? Why is he here? Lo Binghe shook his head. This disciple doesn't know. The day before yesterday, I'd secluded myself within the underground palace inner halls when Shinmo's fragments unexpectedly glowed purple. Then this person appeared, and in hand was another Shinmo. I exchanged blows with him, but in a moment of carelessness I entered one of Shinmo's rifts, which sealed closed behind me. I only had enough time to swipe the sword from him. When I returned, I couldn't find Shizun, so I could only head to Sangchong Mountain. So for these past 2 days, Lo Binghe had been in Proud Immortal Demon Way's original world, and Shinmo's space-severing slash was already that heaven-defying level of OP, its slashes could slice apart even the space between parallel universes. It was no longer something you could explain away by calling it a mere bug. And now a homegrown green JJ gay had found himself in one of Zhongdian's uncountable harem beauties. The child must have been frightened out of his wits. Shen Qingqiu couldn't help the tender fondness that welled up within his heart. But he suddenly heard a voice say coldly, Excuse me, I'm still here. Could you not leave me hanging? The original Lo Binghe was used to forever being at the center of everyone's attention. Watching this duo jump on each other at first sight, thoroughly ignoring his existence and being all cloying and disgusting, filled him with an unspeakable irritation. With a subtle burst of force from his foot, he soundlessly smashed several of the stones beneath it into a fine powder. Lo Binghe shielded Shen Qingqiu behind him, his tone ominous. What were you doing just now? Just playing around, the other Lo Binghe said mildly. Shen Qingqiu was stunned, silent. Playing around with who? Playing around with me? Binga, you'd accept all comers? Welcoming both men and women? Is this something like both meat and fish are fine? I'm not picky, I'll eat whatever I'm given? Oh my god. Oh my god. He's like, everyone's gay? Or was it because this Lobingha had failed to collect even a single member of the original harem, leaving the other Lobingha deprived until he couldn't take it any longer? Binga humphed. Who made you so useless? He asked disdainfully. To think you have not a single woman. His standard for uselessness was practically a drunkard's, but Lobingha's focus wasn't on this at all. In his fury, scarlet blood seemed about to drip from his eyes, and he said sharply, "You dare to humiliate Shizen like this." The other Lobingha's eyes also flooded with crimson as he met that gaze and sneered. How was I humiliating him? Look at that worthless appearance of yours. To think you'd be so unsightly when you're also Lobingha. You even spend all day messing around with Shen Qingqiu, that depraved degenerate. He had yet to finish this sentence when Lobingha exploded. End of the book. Lobingha exploded. Dark chi suffused the interior of the bamboo house to the point that one couldn't have seen their hand in front of their face. Neither protagonist was willing to yield an inch, but then a ray of white light lanced in from above. It appeared that while throwing spiritual blasts around haphazardly, the poor rafters in the bamboo house's ceiling had suffered undue collateral damage. A large hole had been blown open. Lobingha raised his head and gazed upward, his face darker than ever, than even the demonic energy he'd been firing off. Shen Qingqiu had approximately the same expression. Motherfucker, how are we supposed to explain when Anding Peak comes to make repairs? Lobingha was unwilling to destroy the bamboo house. He jumped out the door and yelled, "Come out here!" The original flavor humphed. Perfect. I wasn't able to let loose inside that run-down little house. You could tell he is upset that he didn't grow up in the loving house. The two silhouettes, one black and one white, vanished in an instant. Meanwhile, Shen Qingqiu pondered whether calling Baijian Peak would result in them trying to kill both Lobinghas indiscriminately. At this moment, Ming Fan and Ying 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 rushed in with a group of disciples behind them. By Shen Qingqiu's guess, they'd been doing their evening reading when they heard the strange noises and hurried over. Some of them were carrying guqin, while others held books. "Halt!" said Shen Qingqiu. The entire group of disciples quickly stood at attention. Ming Fan opened his mouth to ask, "Shizen, what's going on here?" "Line up," Shen Qingqiu interrupted. The Qingjing Peak disciples lined up promptly, as if by reflex. "Go down and run laps around Qingjing Peak. 30 of them!" If Shen Qingqiu tried to shoo them away after letting them know what was going on, these kids would unquestionably refuse. They'd even insist on staying to help. Read, to make a mess. Better then to just shoo them off before it reached that point. As he had issued such a direct command, the disciples all looked at one another. If their Shizen wanted them to run, they would run. A group of teal-robed boys and girls ran down Qingjing Peak in a trailing conga line, one after another. Now that he'd directed them away, Shen Qingqiu let out a sigh of relief, then turned around, taking off toward the bamboo forest at the back of the mountain. Lobingha, I wanted my own sexy motherly Shizen too. While the original flavor Lobingha had complete control over Shinmo, the Lobingha who Shen Qingqiu had raised, whether due to unstable psyche or a surplus of distracting thoughts, was prone to suffering its recoil and psychic assaults. Therefore, the latter was probably leery of carelessly handling Shinmo, meaning his hands were somewhat tied. It was likely for this exact reason that he'd taken the initiative to bind and seal the blade with paper talismans. Holding a golden finger while being too afraid to use it was like holding a golden bowl but being unable to ask for rice. With the sword still in its sheath, they seemed to have engaged into a brawl, but this brawl was packing way too much destructive power. Dozens of yawning ditches had already been gouged into the ground, bamboo toppled and sent fallen leaves scattering, while roosting birds soared into the sky with frightened cries. If this continued, the clear and tranquil Qingjing Peak was going to end up shaved into a bald-headed Tuding Peak. The second he spied a gap between the two, Shen Qingqiu prompted Shuya to lunge at the original flavor with a shriek. Silvery light sparked back and forth as the blade streaked towards narrowed eyes. The other Lobingha abruptly moved his head and flicked the sword away, then asked with his head still cocked, "We're clearly the same person, so why does Shizen help him but hurt me?" "Like, fuck, you're the same person!" The Lobingha he'd raised was eccentric maiden Luo, aka Bing Mei, whose story, following Shen Qingqiu's plot interference, had been the system's grace had, by the system's grace, been reshuffled onto the Green JJ's Danmei page, he wasn't a Zhongdian Stallion novel male lead like this guy, with his cool badassery oozing out of every pore and his head full of vulgar thoughts, who'd framed and leveled up on low IQ villains and side characters. No, he's nothing like you at all. Shanchingto kept his mouth shut and didn't answer. He met gazes with Lo Binghe, and without needing any further words, they attacked the original as one. From the beginning, there hadn't been much difference in power between the two Lo Binghes. The original's injuries had mostly been due to Lo Binghe's hacking at him. With the addition of Shen Qingqiu, the balance slowly tipped. Amidst sword glares as snow-white and airy as soaring dragons, spiritual energy and black chi roiled and intertwined, working seamlessly in concert. The original Lo Binghe narrowly avoided several waves of attacks and squinted a little. He seemed angry, but not enough to express his emotions further, only pursing his mouth. Suddenly, he said, "With technique that bad, what's so good about him anyway?" When this line came out of nowhere, Shen Qingqiu's hand trembled a little, but he forced it down and continued attacking. Unfortunately, Binghe refused to restrain himself. "Shizen, you've already experienced my prowess. Since we're the same person, why not come with me? I'll definitely give you more pleasure than he could." Oh my god. Oh my god! He's making fun of him for being a virgin! "Shut up!" snapped Shen Qingqiu. "Already experienced?" muttered Lo Binghe. "Concentrate on the fight," said Shen Qingqiu. What does he mean by already experienced? What does he mean by more pleasure than he could? Or perhaps the original said, ambiguously, Shizen actually likes it when it hurts. Even if that's the case, this disciple guarantees that he could satisfy you. Stop! Oh my god! He's like, "I'll be whatever you want me to be, baby." Ugh. In that instant, Lo Binghe's face twisted. In what seemed an unconscious action, he placed his hand on Shin Mo. "Don't draw it!" Shen Qingqiu urgently yelled. Only then did Lo Binghe come back to himself. He removed his hand right away, but the crimson of his eyes became even more intense, and his breathing quickened as well. He gritted his teeth and threw himself forward, taking the initiative to shift close quarters combat. Kai! Oh my god, Kai! Thank you so much! Don't you know, Binghe, Shizen wants the bad pa-pa-pa. Authenticity! Oh god, yeah. I don't think he would give up Binghe for good sex from Binghe. Oh god. Kai, thank you so much for your super generous donations. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. In a direct brute force confrontation, their power levels and techniques were identical. The consequences they suffered were twinned as well. Shen Qingqiu heard a muffled crack. One Lo Binghe had broken his left arm, the other his right, and both limbs now dangled limply. Their reactions were also the same. With their arms broken, they kicked, and so another cracking noise sounded. This time it was their legs. Shen Qingqiu couldn't take it anymore. Enough! If they went on fighting like this, did they intend to perish together? The original's expression suddenly gentled as he looked at Shen Qingqiu. "Shizen, do you blame me for making things too painful last time?" Oh my god. Lo Binghe went wide-eyed. "Shizen, you've met him before?" If an encounter in the system counted as a meeting, then that was a yes. Not wanting to give a half-hearted answer, Shen Qingqiu said, "It was only a chance meeting." Binghe really knew how to push someone's buttons. "It was my fault last time," he said mournfully. This disciple admits his wrongdoings, but just now, didn't Shizen find my touch most pleasurable? We're both your disciples, so how can you bear to treat me like this? So Binghe's making it sound like they've fucked, but he ripped his arms off. And Bing Mei is gonna think that they fucked. Oh god. You know other men? Now as an older brother. You know other me? Also, Kai, just thank you again so much. I really hope you know how much that means to me. That's crazy. Thank you so much. He ripped them off erotically. It's like, yeah, we had a little hookup. You ripped off my arms! Hi, Jessica! We're on a really good part. We didn't go all the way. It was only a flesh wound. Fake, you faker. You're still faking, as expected of Binga, that two-faced backstabber with his honeyed tongue and belly full of knives, who could smile and agree with you while stabbing you 1,000 times in his heart. The male lead in Zhongjian's grim dark works were truly sinister. By taking this tack, he was obviously trying to disrupt Lo Binghe's focus. Of course, Shen Qingqiu couldn't let him succeed. He snapped back, his words unambiguous and full of righteousness. It wasn't pleasurable in the slightest. The second after he spat these words, a powerful numbing wave of heat surged within his belly. It was impossible to ignore and impossible to suppress, as if 1,000 ants were sluggishly crawling about inside his body. The corner of Lo Binghe's lips twitched upwards as he said, cheerful and ominous, "You still insist on lying about your feelings?" Heavenly demon blood, how could he forget? As long as it was a Lo Binghe, he could control the blood mites within Shen Qingqiu's body. And he's gonna send them right to my dick. Just kidding. Oh yeah, oh my god, I keep forgetting the art. Some Binghe on Binghe action. He's gonna get him. Look at his claws. Kinda looks like the Grinch. Shen Qingqiu, no, not my period again. Two Lo Binghes openly competed with each other, one agitating the blood mites, the other suppressing them, and the result was that numbing weakness and prickling heat ebbed and flowed throughout Shen Qingqiu, coming in waves as they rapidly spread from his abdomen to his entire body, even to his fingertips. Shen Qingqiu gulped a couple of painful breaths, his vision blurred, and the hand holding his sword began to tremble. The moment Lo Binghe was distracted, the Shinmo at his waist was snatched away. The original flavor gave them a gleeful smile, a hint of bloodthirsty excitement within it. Right as he grasped the hilt, ready to draw the sword from its sheath, Shen Qingqiu suddenly said coldly, "Don't celebrate too early. Look above you." A third Lo Binghe entered the fight. Bye, Jessica! Could you imagine? It didn't say that. At this moment, the only things above their head were rustling twigs and leaves of bamboo, swaying and undulating in the wind. The original didn't need to raise his head to tell that no threat awaited him above, and he smiled slightly. "Shizen, that sort of ploy is for dealing with little children. Trying to trick your disciple like that is a bit too condescending." "You won't look? All right, you brought this upon yourself." Shen Qingqiu formed a seal with his left hand and crisply snapped his fingers, his expression hardening. The original was about to say something when a fluttering leaf streaked across his vision. The smile on his face froze. A fine trickle of blood slowly dripped down his cheek. All around him, bamboo leaves fell more and more thickly until the leisurely drifting foliage suddenly sped up, each one slicing forward where he stood in the center like frigid, cutting wind from the east. Plucking leaves, flying flowers, ultimate version, 100 leaves, 1,000 flowers! The original Lo Binghe flung out his palm, rooting the dense assault of leafy razors. But for Shen Qingqiu, the entire forest was full of ammunition, thick with leaves that rained down like confetti, homing in on their target in hot pursuit, though they appeared unassuming. With a single touch, they could carve flesh from bone. A leaf or two could be dodged, but hundreds upon thousands of blotting out the sky as they enveloped a target was inevitably enough to fluster anyone. On top of that, the original had broken both an arm and a leg during his cruel duel earlier, hampering his mobility. Shen Qingqiu was about to take his bullying further when a black shadow stole in front of him. With his remaining good hand, that figure struck the original Lo Binghe square in the chest. A look of disbelief flashed over the impossibly familiar face, and in that instant, Shen Qingqiu actually found it all somewhat unbearable. The original backed up 2 steps, his throat bobbing as if he'd swallow a mouthful of blood. How harmonious, he sneered. Not bad, His words were mocking, but his good hand had already clenched into a fist, his veins faintly bulging. Since he'd come of age, no one had ever managed to push him this far. Being at such a disadvantage reminded him of the days when he'd been persecuted and humiliated, trampled over in all kinds of ways. The hot tea spilled upon his head, the cold and drafty woodshed, the relentless beating fists, the verbal abuse, the kneeling that lasted from the blazing afternoon into the dead of night, the paucity of his meals. And connected to those days via 1,000 inseparable threads was the face before him. But right now, that face's owner stood beside a person identical to him, cradling his double's broken arm, too afraid to touch it, but also too worried to let go, as if he himself could feel the pain. Shenjingqiu frowned. Why did you fight him head on? And you kept fighting even though you knew your arm was broken. Don't be so reckless next time. It was a scolding, but the tone wasn't just urgent and upset. It was anguished and full of heartache. Even an idiot could hear that. A chill wind blew through the forest, rustling the foliage. Leaves drifted down one by one. It was so infuriating and so unfair. The image of these two of them standing together was so glaring that his eyes began to hurt, the rims prickling with heat. He's gonna cry? This is so upsetting. This is so sad. Even though they were both Lobinghe, for what reason had that one been able to meet this sort of Shenjingqiu while he had only met a rotten bastard, vindictive, petty, and jealous to the core? For what reason? The carefully preserved clothes and belongings, the pristine and tidy side room, the gentle whispers, the boundless doting and indulgence. He'd only wanted to humiliate them because that disgusting relationship of theirs elicited nothing but his contempt, and yet the "come with me" that left his mouth in that instant was involuntary, and it was addressed to Shenjingqiu. Oh my god, this is so sad. And, like, embarrassing. Oh, that really, really hurts. He said, "Come with me"? Oh, God. Oh, man. That makes me so sad. Oh. That really sucks. Lobinghe heard those 3 words and sneered. What did you say? Huh? His knuckles cracked. From the looks of it, they had triggered a killing rage. It was true that Shenjingqiu approved of finishing people off. He was a big fan of finishing things off. But if he had Lobinghe kill the other Lobinghe, exactly what would they be doing here? Then again, if Shenjingqiu were to land the killing blow himself, that was even more unthinkable. Furthermore, what if the law that the male lead has plot armor was still in effect with regard to the original Binge? Shenjingqiu pressed down on his Lobinghe's shoulder with 2 fingers, telling him to calm down. As he was racking his brains as to how to deal with this, the original Lobinghe moved first. He slapped away Shinmo's paper seals. Dark chi and purple light surged forth, and with the other 2 still on full alert, he cut a dimension-severing slash, opened a spatial rift, and leapt inside. As he looked back, he viciously bit his lip. So infuriating. Then the rift vanished, together with his figure. Just like that. He was gone? He'd been that easy to defeat? Though he was frozen for a while, Shenjingqiu finally recovered. Head back and destroy Shinmo's fragments this instant. You can't keep something like that around. The bugs in that thing's code were way too serious. If they held onto it, who knew what kind of ridiculous development it'd stir up next? Lobinghe silently nodded, though he probably didn't need anyone's support. Shenjingqiu continued to lend him one of his arms to lean on. They'd barely walked a single step when Lobinghe said mournfully, "Shizen, is my technique really that awful?" To be honest, it was indeed awful. Really awful. Regardless of whether it was a matter of kissing, touching, stripping, or rolling around, the difference was far more than a few levels. Oh shit. Oh my god. Oh man. And when it came to thrusting, he hadn't had the chance to compare, but if one followed this line of logic, it would also be a fail. Obviously, Shenjingqiu wouldn't say these words. Instead, he skirted around it with a, "Not really." The gloom on Lobinghe's face grew heavier and heavier. "After all, you don't have much experience," Shenjingqiu consoled him. Binga's skills had been honed through fighting hundreds of battles and having trysts with hundreds of women. Lobingha's head drooped. From the look of it, he was probably contemplating squatting in some corner to grow mushrooms again. More than anything, Shenqingqiu couldn't stand just watching Lobingha in one of these moods. This master will treat your arm and leg first, and once they're healed, we can do some exploring together, he said in a coaxing tone. How about that? Lobingha abruptly jerked his head up. Really? Shenqingqiu had known that he would react like this and calmly patted his head. Treatment first. Lobingha nodded, then with 2 cracks he slotted his arm and leg back into place. Oh. He instantly straightened, using his perfectly whole hands to grasp Shenqingqiu's arms, a soft flush rising to his cheeks as his eyes sparkled. I'm healed! Shizen, let's do some exploring. A hole yawned overhead in the bamboo house, and the whistling wind funneled in through it. Shenqingqiu lay on his back facing the sky. Lobingha's weight was on top of him, like a puppy. He licked and kissed down the line of his throat. He stared at the gaping hole above them, which had been blasted open by one of the Lobinghas during their battle. Finally unable to pretend he couldn't see it any longer, he said, How about we change locations? Lobingha raised his head. No, he said obstinately. Leaving the mountain and booking a room or whatever would be better than this. Shenqingqiu had yet to comment when Lobingha repeated himself. No changing, let's do it here, in the bamboo house. He said this very firmly. In all likelihood, the bamboo house was a very special place to Lobingha. Shenqingqiu capitulated and went to remove his clothes himself. At this point, he could say he had some experience. He couldn't wait for Lobingha to remove them. If he did, those clothes would no longer be in a wearable state. So it was better to fully strip himself first. After a spat of rustling, their outer robes, inner robes, and waist sashes all fell to the floor one by one, the teal and black overlapping. Now that they were exposed to each other, a chill wind blew past, and Shenqingqiu felt very keenly that he was both a bit cold as well as a bit embarrassed. Yet Lobingha didn't seem to feel the same in the least. He knelt between Shenqingqiu's legs, his Adam's apple bobbing, an expression terribly nervous. Oh my god. The last time they'd done this on Maigu Ridge, he'd been in a daze. He didn't remember it very well, but he'd seen the disastrous bloody aftermath and knew just how dreadfully he'd done. On top of that, he'd just suffered a massive blow to his ego, so he sorely wanted to put on a good performance, but he had no idea how to go on about doing so. Watching him hesitate, Shenqingqiu found him pitiful. He sighed and took the initiative, reaching out to undo the belt of Lobingha's pants. Lobingha's pale face flushed red, and Shenqingqiu couldn't resist using a hand to scratch at his chin. This child really was quite adorable when it came to these things. This is really sweet. But after undoing his belt and looking down, he saw that thing, already alert, and all thoughts of adorability instantly flew off beyond the 9 heavens. Fuck, the size! Absolutely not, Shenqingqiu said resolutely. Those words struck Lobingha like lightning. Shizen, you promised. What he meant by absolutely not was, we can't just go to town like this, I'll die! Just how had he managed to survive last time? How had this thing gotten inside his body without killing him? How had he not been annihilated? Shenqingqiu struggled for a moment, then said, let me take care of you once with my hands. At least he could jerk him off to deflate it a bit first. To deflate it a bit first? Oh my god. Oh my god. That's how that works, right? Holy shit. Shenqingqiu's 5 digits had never serviced another person before, so this was a groundbreaking first time for him. He prodded the purple... Ew! Oh my god, some of these stripping words are gross. With its ridiculous construction, he steeled himself and grabbed it. Lobingha yelped in pain, his expression a little aggrieved. Shenqingqiu focused on hypnotizing himself, his grip neither tight nor loose, as his hands slowly began to move. The more alarmed he became. Whether it was a question of girth hardness, or temperature. This definitely wasn't something that belonged on a living organism, right? It'd be more correct to call it a weapon, right? After the rough start, where Shen Qingqiu hadn't yet figured out the right level of force, leading to his grip to be a little painful, Lo Binghe visibly got into the mood with a quickness. He stared at Shen Qingqiu, squinting a bit through limp, quavering eyes, and his breath too became slightly unsteady. Shen Qingqiu's face was blank, but his actions were fervent. The more his hand became sore. It wouldn't go down, it wouldn't surrender. If anything, it stiffened further. No matter how calm Shen Qingqiu kept himself, he couldn't stop his expression from twisting. Lo Binghe had secretly been paying attention to his face the entire time. At this moment, he carefully said, "Then, Shizhen, how about you do it?" What? Shen Qingqiu thought he'd heard wrong. Lo Binghe was going to let him top? "I'm afraid of hurting Shizhen again," said Lo Binghe, "so it'd be better if Shizhen did it." He spoke very earnestly, his expression sincere. He was seconds away from lying down before Shen Qingqiu hastily said, "No, it'll be best if you do it." If Shen Qingqiu took charge, he didn't have any experience, okay? If he wasn't careful and made Lo Binghe bleed everywhere, even though he knew Lo Binghe would still be overjoyed, he wouldn't be able to sleep at night. There would be more opportunities in the future anyway. There was nothing wrong with going along with him a bit more, or letting him taste a little sweetness first. In short, it unequivocally wasn't on account of being a little moved that Shen Qingqiu was offering to give up the lead himself. Goodbye. As if to encourage Lo Binghe, Shen Qingqiu patted his head and turned himself over, lying face down in the pillow. Okay. There's many jokes to be said here about Shen Qingqiu just like being a bottom through and through and being like, no, I don't want to top. But I think it's really interesting and shows a lot about his character and shows a lot about how he loves and how he shows his love, that he is willing to get hurt because he knows like Binghe's going to, like, they really want to do this. He's like, it's okay if I get hurt. I can take that, that's fine. But he truly cannot fathom hurting Binghe. Even if it would be fine, like, Binghe would be fine. Like, because of the whole thing of, like, you know, Shenzhou used to beat Binghe, you know? He refuses to do anything that will hurt Binghe. So he's willing to take his massive dick and get annihilated because of that fact of not wanting to hurt Binghe. And I think, you know, dynamics aside and stuff, like he said, they had all the time in the world to explore and try different things. So I definitely think he would top in the future. But he's like, right now, I have no experience, you have no experience. If we're gonna do this, if one of us is going to get hurt doing this, just let me be the hurt one. And I think that that's, like, I think that's really impactful. And I feel like normally I would be one to make jokes and make light of this, being like, no, he's just too much of a bottom, he doesn't want to fucking top. I genuinely think taking that seriously, like, it feels very special for him to have said that. And I think that the line, there would be more opportunities in the future anyway. So, like, he's, like, down to try that another time. But the sacrifice he's willing to make for Binghe, it's like, this can be a very funny scene, but I also think it's still very deeply emotional, you know? Thank you so much, Haley, for joining my membership. I really appreciate that. His elbows were propped on the bed, his shoulder blades raised high, and the line of his waist dipped in a soft arc, practically presenting himself to Lo Binghe. Shanxingqiu was so ashamed that his face was burning, but unexpectedly, Lo Binghe grabbed his waist and flipped him back around. "What's wrong with you now?" he asked helplessly. "Shizen," Lo Binghe said, "I want to do it from the front." "You want to do me face to face?" Shanxingqiu's expression was dark. "Don't be greedy." He tried again to lie on his front while mumbling in his heart, "This child is so fucking fussy. He's lucky enough that I'm letting him do it at all." But lo and behold, Lo Binghe again flipped him over like a pancake, his expression mournful. "Shizen, do you really hate looking at my face that much?" Oh my god. Fine beads of sweat dotted his forehead, his nose was dusted red, and tears seemed to be shivering on the rims of his lids. Shanxingqiu had absolutely zero doubts that if he refused again, Lo Binghe would burst into tears on the spot. Faced with this scene, he felt both embarrassed and tender. His heart melted. He couldn't help but say, "That's not it." Lo Binghe was on the verge of weeping. Heartbroken, he whined, "Then why does Shizen insist on having his back to me every time?" "You're really thinking about it too much. Where do all these little moods and ideas come from exactly?" Whatever, he didn't need his face. It would be better for Lo Binghe not to read into things so much. All right, Shanxingqiu said recklessly. "From the front is fine. Cease this weeping. Aren't you ashamed?" Lo Binghe's following actions proved that his tears held no value whatsoever. "Oh," he said, and the moisture vanished as swiftly as it had arrived. He shamelessly pressed his head closer, his hand caressing Shanxingqiu's skin. Shanxingqiu possessed both a slim waist and a delicate limbs. His bare legs were long and slender as well. As they were face to face, those legs were forced to bend and fold. Lo Binghe looked down. He had a clear view of everything between them, of the deep gully separating the two round buttocks. Lo Binghe's hand shook slightly as he skimmed up a smooth, silky inner thigh. Shanxingqiu couldn't help but shrink back, as if afraid that he'd renege. Lo Binghe held one of his thighs down, yep, he's using his hand. How is his hand magically oily? Shanxingqiu thinks it feels bizarre. He didn't have the time to mind where Lo Binghe acquired such ample tools for preparation. Lo Binghe held his breath, totally focused on his task. Oh dear. Oh dear. He's got 3 in there. Shanxingqiu gasped and grabbed Lo Binghe's forearm, gritting his teeth. "Slow down." Like a toddler learning to walk. Why bring children into this at this moment? Lo Binghe did indeed slow down and followed Shanxingqiu's instructions, proceeding step by step as he tried to... Okay. He found a spot. He's finding it all the less unbearable. Miss Rosie, thank you so much for gifting a membership. Oh my god. Shanxingqiu shuddered, suddenly finding it all the less unbearable. Enduring his shame, he said, there, that's fine." Oh my god. Just saying, "That's fine." Why did he need to teach another person how to fuck him? Having to act the master even in this situation, Shanxingqiu truly wanted to light an entire Tsangchong Mountain's worth of candles for himself. You know, everyone always says Lo Binghe's really bad at sex, but it seems like he's really trying very hard to be good and gentle here, and Shanxingqiu's enjoying it so far. Lo Binghe was careful while studying his expression. The corners of his eyes, which had been dyed a faint red, the tightly pressed lips that stifled all sounds, the brows that at times wrinkled, at times relaxed. Lo Binghe's eyes captured every minute change. The sensation of having nowhere to hide made Shanxingqiu feel even more excruciatingly ashamed, and he was about to turn his head to the side in embarrassment. Suddenly, he detected something out of the corner of his eye. Close to Lo Binghe's heart was a hideous scar that cut right across his chest. It was from when Shanxingqiu had pushed him into the endless abyss, where Shanxingqiu had stabbed him right by his heart. He'd never once intended to hurt Lo Binghe, but time after time he had been the one to do so. That was the truth. Falling into a brief trance, Shenjingqiu unconsciously reached out to touch that scar. At the same instant, Lo Binghe finished his preliminary preparations. Okay, he's doing the real thing now. Hey, Miss Rosie! I'm glad you were not disappointed. Thank you for your donation. Just finished stream and was heading into bed, though I thought I'd pop in and see what chaos is happening and was not disappointed. Yeah, we're reading a really good scene. Thanks, Miss Rosie. Lo Binghe's blazing chest came forward and pressed against his. Shenjingqiu wrapped his arms tightly around Lo Binghe's neck and gasped deeply like a dying man. Even with all that lubricating oil sourced from heavens nowhere, he was simply too large. Shenjingqiu couldn't help but squeeze Lo Binghe harder and harder, his legs involuntarily rubbing along his waist. Shizen, is this alright? Lo Binghe asked, the sound reverberating in his eardrums. Lo Binghe's voice was tight with restraint. It was obvious that it was taking everything he had not to just drive himself in all the way. Shenjingqiu defied his own thoughts to say, "It's fine." Having received confirmation, Lo Binghe's hands on his waist tightened a little and he went on in. It felt like his bottom half no longer belonged to him. Oh. Okay, tears streamed down his face without his knowledge. At the same time, Lo Binghe turned Shenjingqiu's face forward, preparing to kiss him, only to see him overwhelmed with pain. He froze for a moment, and having taken another blow to the heart, his own tears followed, spilling down. The teardrops pitter-pattered onto Shenjingqiu's cheek, pattering until he was left speechless. "What are you crying for?" "I'm sorry, I hurt Shizen again," Lo Binghe said in a trembling voice. Shenjingqiu didn't reply. "It's because this disciple is too stupid." "No, it's because your dick's so big." Two people crying at each other. What the hell kind of situation was this? Enduring the discomfort in his lower body, Shenjingqiu pecked Lo Binghe's eyes and cheeks, kissing away his tears. "I'm fine. It doesn't hurt that much. Everyone experiences moments in which they're less capable. Go on." "I'll pull out," Lo Binghe said sadly. "Fuck, don't joke around. If we leave things like this, we'll both end up with psychological trauma. What if we get ED?" Oh my god. A brief pain was better than a drawn-out one. Okay, so Shenjingqiu is saying that the pain of getting fucked by Binghe is not as bad as getting blue-balled. They'd come this far, at least one person had to feel good, right? Shenjingqiu made his decision and abruptly sat up, pushing Lo Binghe beneath him. Oh? Oh? The strength he'd been building for so long was exhausted in one go. He had nothing left to brace his legs. Oh my god, he's on top of him! Binghe hadn't finished the last time, so it probably hadn't counted as fully losing his virginity. Then this time, he had to at least help Lo Binghe get that far. As he thought this, he propped his arm against Lo Binghe's abdomen and managed to sit up a little. Oh! Suddenly, he hit the angle just right! Taken by surprise, Shenjingqiu's back went weak and he collapsed forward. Lo Binghe sat up just in time to catch him and folded him into his arms. Lobingha's senses were incredibly sharp. Shizen, does it stop hurting when I touch there? He asked doggedly. Not only had it stopped hurting, it had even felt a little good. In this position, Shen Qingqiu's legs were wide open as he sat atop Lobingha, face to face, their lower halves pressed seamlessly together. In order to keep his balance, Shen Qingqiu was forced to circle his limp arms around Lobingha's neck. Even Lobingha's gentlest movements shifted their snugly joined lower bodies, and Shen Qingqiu couldn't stop a couple of close-mouthed whines from slipping out. Oh my god, guys! Everyone says Bingha's so bad at sex. Shen Qingqiu is really enjoying this, okay? Bounce on it! June! Crazy style. Bounce on that thing, Shizen! Stop! Crazy style! Bouncing on it. Crazy style. Oh my god. Yeah, Shen Qingqiu is both of her. I feel like this is honestly a really endearing scene, seeing like two virgins kind of figure it out. I think they're being very kind to each other. This is actually a very nice scene, I think. Miss Rosie, thank you for your donation. Oh yeah, character Dragon Emoji tattoo is done in DMs. Oh, I'm very excited to see that, Miss Rosie. I can't wait to see it. Thank you for sending me it. System task is to ride. You must bounce on it, crazy style. They are being really cute. Shen Qingqiu is he's wrapping his arms around his waist and he's whining. He's so into it. He even said it doesn't hurt anymore. It just feels good. Come on. It's actually a size queen after all. Delighted and rejuvenated, Lobingha fully embraced Shen Qingqiu's hips and was aiming for that spot. This time, Shen Qingqiu could no longer hold it in. He let out a gasp, his trembling legs no longer obeying him as they clamped down on Lobingha. Having found the key, Lobingha officially went on the offensive. Oh no. Okay, he's just going at it hard. And Shen Qingqiu says he didn't know whether he was in pain or taken by bliss. He's really into it. Oh no! Suddenly, scattered footsteps drifted in from outside the bamboo house. I'm so tired. Xishang, wait for us. I can't run any farther. If Shen Qingqiu had been drunk on lust moments before, now his soul was about to flee his body. It was the disciples he'd sent to run laps around Qingjing Peak. Shen Qingqiu abruptly grabbed Lobingha's shoulder, wanting to get off him, but to his chagrin, Lobingha clamped onto his waist, viciously pressing him downward. Shen Qingqiu opened his mouth, but Lobingha instantly blocked it with his own. Unable to do more than grunt, Shen Qingqiu could only choke down his sobs, squeezing his eyes shut as reflexive tears streamed down his face. Having tasted that sweetness, how could Lobingha let him go so easily? He gently worried at him with his lips and teeth, while his lower half forcefully... Huh? Why do I feel like something is missing on top of the bamboo house? Mingfan asked outside. Is that a hole? You're right, Xishang. It really does look like a hole. Little did they know, their Shizen's hole was being wrecked just a door away. When did that happen? Should we go tell Enda and Peak? Get them to come and fix it right away? Shen Qingqiu was terribly afraid of them coming in now, or of telling someone else to do so. His fingers clenched, digging hard into Lobingha's back while his entrance tensed, making the slide increasingly difficult. Oh dear. Ning Yingying seemed to stomp her foot as she snapped. What are we gonna fix? After running for so long, we're exhausted. If you want to fix it, do it tomorrow. All the disciples quickly chimed in. Alright, let's listen to Shimei. If Shimei says to fix it tomorrow, we'll fix it tomorrow. Besides, Shizen doesn't like it when people ever casually enter and clean Aluo's side room, Ning Yingying said. He definitely wouldn't be happy if we did anything without his permission. Haven't you gotten that into your heads yet? At these words, Lobingha's eyes flashed, and he abruptly pushed Shen Qingqiu onto the bed. As the disciples all headed towards the dining hall while muttering, Lo Binghe finally stopped covering Shen Qingqiu's mouth. Instead, he moved his head to Shen Qingqiu's chest, where he nibbled on a nipple while his lower half kept going. Oh my god. Okay, it says he got used to his size and it was going easy. The accommodation perfect. It literally says it was perfect. Shizun mumbled Lo Binghe. Don't say that, Shen Qingqiu couldn't help but plead. To address him properly as a disciple to his master at a time like this, he was going to explode with shame 100 times over. Okay, no Shizun kink in bed. No matter how thick his face, how shameless he was, he couldn't take it. But Lo Binghe suddenly murmured by his ear, Shizun, I couldn't find you on the other side. His voice was trembling slightly. Shen Qingqiu dragged himself back to attention. The me over there had so many people at his side, but he didn't have you, Shizun. I searched for a long time, but I couldn't find you. The reason I became like that, was it because I didn't have you? A pause. I don't want to become like that. Shen Qingqiu took a deep breath and pulled Lo Binghe's head toward his chest, where he stroked it. Don't worry, you won't become like him. A moment, and your Shizun will never throw you away, ever again. Oh, in the middle of them doing it for the first time, Binghe has this, like, big emotional moment. Demons had an incredible stamina. This Shen Qingqiu knew. Male leads also had incredible stamina. Shen Qingqiu knew this as well. But that someone who shared both the demonic blood and male lead traits could last this long, that he had such a profound stamina, Shen Qingqiu absolutely hadn't been mentally prepared for that. By the time Lo Binghe finally finished, Shen Qingqiu was in a daze. He was finally brought back to his senses. At this moment, he no longer wanted to fuss over condoms or the lack thereof, or whether or not it was fine. He just wanted to sleep. Binghe got Shen Qingqiu off twice. Shizun, said Lo Binghe. Shen Qingqiu knew what he wanted to ask and mercilessly spoke first. Awful. However, this time, even after receiving criticism, Lo Binghe wasn't depressed. Rather, he exuberantly declared, yes, it was awful. Unacceptably awful. What are you saying? Because it was simply awful, this disciple requests that his Shizun assist him with further exploration. Well. That honestly was so... That was so nice. I think that was an incredible sex scene. The only parts I didn't say it was just because it was a little bit too graphic. It was just a little bit... The descriptive words were just a little bit too... obscene. Nothing crazy happened. I genuinely believe that was like a really, really nice first time scene. Like, their first time, it was like he was half fucking crazy possessed. Like, I feel like that doesn't even really count. Their genuine first time was really, really nice. And Shen Qingqiu was super fucking into it. And there's a bit of the funniness of like, oh my god, his stamina was just like crazy. And by the end of it, Shen Qingqiu was just like, I'm so tired, I don't care. Which is, you know, meant to be kind of funny. And like, it's like a Danmei novel, so they have superpowers and shit like that. But it's still, Shen Qingqiu still got off twice and fucking loved it. And even said that his size was perfect. So this whole time I had this whole thought that was like, they cannot have sex. It's just purely painful. Shen Qingqiu hates it. He only gives in because Binghe cries. Like, I got the complete wrong impression. And it was genuinely a really, really well written, nice scene. That's just what Shen Qingqiu wanted you to think. Orion says, I think people just clown because Pillar's so big. I think the Bingqiu sex scenes are very sweet. Yeah, honestly, they are very, very sweet. Little did they know their Chisen's hole was getting wrecked. Oh dear, there's 3 in him. Yeah. Yeah, it's primarily the meme. I get the meme 1000%, but I thought that that was all that there was to it. I thought they were just gonna have awful sex and it was just gonna be Shenching Cho being like, oh my god, it's so bad, and then like secretly enjoying it, but like, they really just felt like 2 young, inexperienced guys who really respect and love each other doing it, you know? It was nice. Cup Noodle Cat says, we haven't gotten to the wine yet. Oh, brother. Oh, fuck. How could I forgot about the wine? Oh, jeez. Oh. Books that are used later. Moto says, there's too many fics, I think, that haven't gone over this chapter. Yeah, there's always lots of people that haven't read the source. The source was genuinely a really nice, sexy, especially, you know, coming from just reading Arha and Case File. This was beautiful, you know? Like, you want to read about a bottom not having a good time, but secretly having a good time, maybe a little bit, who knows? That's that type style of writing. But this was very much like, no question, he's having a good time. Yeah, Jay, it seemed quite realistic. It was quite good. I might have to go. I think my aunt is home. She just got back from vacation, so I should probably head out and say hello to everybody and not talk about gay sex really loudly with the door open. But thank you guys so much for an incredibly fun read. This was really, really fun. I enjoyed it so much, and I really appreciate everybody who supported me during this stream by joining my membership or gifting memberships and the donations. It really, really means the world to me. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m. PST will be the members-only stream. Any membership tier can join. We play Danmei games like Gartic Phone and Frantic Fanfic, and we just hang out and chat, and it's with Stitch, and it's just a really, really fun time. And so I hope to see you guys there tomorrow, and I gotta go get my dog. Nothing this weekend. I'm gonna be away for a wedding. Okay, bye! I hope you enjoyed my attempt at safer work reading.